you got a big heavy log with the back of the log against the backstop, and you don't have enough room to actually make a cut, that's when the scooch comes in. I will show you the whole point I'm trying to make about cutting width. And the odds are this will apply to you, so stay tuned. I know Chip is really looking excited right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Looky here, even Chip's interested. He got his eyes open, he's watching for today's log. Aren't you, big man? He's normally be sleeping over there in the sun, but he's wanting to see what I'm gonna do about this big old log. Hey folks, welcome again to Sawing with Robert Milton and Chip. He is the star of the show and supervisor. I'm just a hired help. This is a big one. I mean, it's not like huge big, but yeah, it's pretty big. A little bit under 36 inches. As a sawmiller, you're gonna be forced to saw logs that big. Yeah, so even though I have an LT70 wide, typically with most sawmills, because of the blade guide placement and the way that the backstops are set, the backstops being those, the log stops, you can call them what you want, but they're the things that keep the log from rolling off. A lot of times, especially with wood misers, their advertised cutting width is not necessarily an easy width for you to get. So anyway, now we're going to immediately jump into the grumpy old man part of the video, because as soon as I tell you that your blade guide rollers don't line up with your backstops, and you have to do a scooch, a technical term, to get full width cuts, somebody's going to say, no. The wood miser manual says those are not backstops, those are side supports, or I don't know, whatever the wood miser manual says that they are, it doesn't matter. So if you have an employee and you want them to go get some logs, you say, hey, go get them logs and put them on the front of the mill on the loader arms. And they know what you're talking about. Then when you raise them up and you don't get a log positioned correctly, you go, hey, get that log and roll it to the back of the mill against the backstops. And they go, yeah, okay. You tell somebody to go raise your side supports, they're going to be looking at you kind of funny. You may even get an HR claim against you. Sweat be right on the lens. So, seeing as how I don't have an HR department except Chip, and he really doesn't care that much about it. You can call it whatever you want, but that's how I'm going to do it. So if you want to correct me, that's fine, and it's going to have zero traction. I will show you the whole point I'm trying to make about cutting width. And the odds are this will apply to you, so stay tuned. I know Chip is really looking excited right now. I think he's closed one eye, but he's got one eye open. So let's get this log loaded. So one thing, if you watch my other videos, you know I'm a real big fan of putting these big cross ties down, which you can make yourself with your own sawmill. And I've mentioned you want the ends to be right where when a big old log falls down, it gets trapped, almost like it's wedged between the end of the cross tie and the loader arms, because the loader arms aren't that wide. They're not going to go completely under the log on a big one. That'd be nice if they did, but they won't. They just got to get to here, right? But the thing is, it's real easy for that log to not be supported, and as soon as you load it, it's going to try to roll back. That's like frustrating as all get out. So leave a little bit of a gap so the big log is jammed against the corner, it's wedged, and it's as far as it can go pretty much on the sawmill. That's the best chance you have of loading it. I know my logs, and that's a big old log. I mean, I've done bigger. I've seen bigger. That's a big one. But it ain't nothing we can't eat. Now I'm gonna slowly try to raise my log loader arms. And hey, look at that, it's not gonna roll off. Good. Let's put the old girl on there. With most sawmills, you really do not want to just slam that log on. You want to kind of be gentle with it. It's not to damage anything, so I'm going up nice and slow. Boom. All righty. Kind of give you an idea of how big it is. So it's not quite 36 inches. It's close though. So when you look at this log, what I'm talking about now is if you look straight online, you'll notice that that is going to hit. And you go, well, Robert, I thought you had a wide head mill that would cut 36 inches or something. I go, well, you know, I do. The problem is this blade guide and the backstops. So the backstops are grabbing the log here, which means, and then the blade guide roller is actually on the back side of the backstops, which means then that at this point on the first cut, I'm not even using 8 inches of the band. This is as far as I can go. I'm not using that part of the band, and if this log was just a little bit bigger, I couldn't saw down through it. Howsomever, and that is a technical term, you can do what's called the scooch. And that's not a technical term, and it does not cost you 20 bucks. And what I'm going to do very carefully is I'm going to lower my back. Let me see if I can get a better picture of it here. I'm going to lower these down, and then I'm going to take the 2-plane clamp or whatever else I have, and I'm going to push the log over. And I'm going to push it over until it just barely clears that blade guide roller up there. And that will give me several more inches, because the only real clearance I have to worry about is the blade guide roller right there. As long as it clears the mast and the roller, I can scooch it over as much as I want. Then that will let the idle side roller guide clear everything. Let's see if I can do this with one camera so it looks somewhat reasonable. You kind of see right down the edge of all my clearances, right? You got the back stops, the blade guide. And we're going to scooch it over as far as we can. Going to drop. So that's another good point. See how as soon as I moved it, it starts to roll? Anytime I'm doing this with really a big log, I much prefer to leave the loader arms up right there. That way it can't roll off the mill. I've done that. That's a bad day. And it also kind of shows where the log wants to settle. But for the purposes of this, we're going to scooch it over, and I'll show you the difference. So let's go back up, push it over. 2-plane clamp. That's as far as we can get it. I mean, it's done. That's as far as we can get it. I mean, it's done. And I'm losing about 8 inches of bandwidth. Come down, scooch it over. Nice and slow. Look how much more room I got. Come down, scooch it over. Nice and slow. Look how much more room I got. I still have room to clear the mast. I can even come down a little more. What? Boom. So now let's look and see what we got. I'm going to bring the head. Oh, well, so Let me get to the other side and do it again and show you what I'm doing. Let's do it again. This time you'll see what I'm doing with the log clamp. The log clamp being right here. So you want to have the log scooted sideways. You don't want to roll it. So you really want your log clamp pretty low. You're just trying to catch it on the bottom. So the normal clamp would be like that. We're out of room, pull the clamp down. You'll go down and pick it up and see how I was able to scooch it without even rotating it. See? A little bit at a time. There you go. See, now the distance between the log and the mast has been greatly reduced. The whole log is shifted over several inches. And I've got more than enough room now with the blade guide roller to clear everything. And typically on these big ones, so I could now through cut that whole log if I wanted to with live edge slab. I mean, I picked up quite a few inches. As a matter of fact, let's scooch it a little more if you want to. Just go the whole way. That's about as far as she'll go. Now let's look at how much room we have now. I'm gonna go, oh no, there's a hunk of bark. See, it's actually gone to the point the log is actually hitting. So what I'm gonna do, I went a little too far on the scooch, loosen up the two plane, kind of go back just a hair. Right there. That looks better. Man, I just put a new lens cover on this camera. I don't want to mess it up. Now you can see I'm not quite rubbing. That's bark I'm hitting. And look, I am within now, man, that's got to be a ½ an inch of the mast. Look at that. Look how much extra space I'm able to pick up by doing the scooch. And look at on this side, I got like 8 inches of extra space. Now I got more room than I need. I don't even need that much. I'll probably just go put it back somewhere in the middle there. So now when you look at how much room I got in this guy, I got more than I need. So I'll probably scooch it back just a little bit just to kind of center it up. But that's the key. I mean, this thing is tight. I'm rocking a Sawmill. You got a big heavy log. You don't need to have your clamps. You don't need to have your clamps and your backstops up all the way. All you got to do is make a cradle. Whether they're that high or that high, it really doesn't matter. I mean, you don't need to go all the way up. You need to bring them down, push it over, get a good clamp on it, make sure it's sturdy. I can saw this all the way down if I wanted to. I don't really like making live edge slabs this wide. I just don't like handling them. I can't run them through the planer. My limit's around 25 inches. So I should say my planer's limit is around 25 inches. So I try to stay under that most times. So typically what I'll do on the really big logs, I'll do a scooch. I'll saw down to here or to some level until I'm 25 inches this side, and then I'll rotate it over and then just have single live edge on one side. So when you got a big old log that's bigger than what you could normally cut with the back of the log against the backstop, and you don't have enough room to actually make a cut, that's when the scooch comes in. And again, a couple safety things that I like to do. If you're new to the scooch, go slow. There is the possibility of you rolling it on the back side of the Sawmill, which is not good. Notice I said backside, not backside, because this is the back of the Sawmill. So one thing that you can do is bring your mast in and use it for safety support. Now, I told Wood Miser about that one time, and they had a conniption. We would never recommend you using your mast as an emergency backstop because you might damage your mast. And my thought was, well, the only time you're going to hit your mast is if the log is rolling off the back of the mill, and trust me, on any hydraulic mill that's got a cat track or any kind of controls over there, if a log rolls on that side, there's going to be some damage. So it's up to you. It's your judgment. A lot of times I'll like to put the mast kind of in the middle. If you do it right, you'll never touch it. If you do it wrong, you'll probably be glad it was there because you'll be fishing this guy out between the wall of your building. Imagine how difficult this would be if this fell in over here. I mean, seriously. Let's see, it lands on my hydraulics, my electronics, lands on my wheel, crushes my pipe, gets wedged in there. It's several thousand pounds. I'm gonna have to get some chains. I'm gonna have to deadlift it over, put it over here, or I take the mast, gently drive it about halfway, and use it as a way to adjust clearance like you saw me doing. And if the log does roll off, it just bounces against it gently and doesn't just destroy your sawmill. I don't know which alternative you prefer, but I much prefer a little bump than destroy the sawmill. I mean, it's just me. I also always like to have these guys up, as I've mentioned. If you have a chain turner, use it as a safety. You saw that when I released the two-plane clamp, the log tried to roll this way, and that chain turner is always a good idea to raise up if you can. You always want to set your two-plane clamp so the log won't roll off the back side if you can help it. Sometimes it might, and that's what these guys are for. This is your secondary safety, and trust me, throughout the years I've had to use them, and that is another important part. The issue gets to be when you get into the really big logs that are on the edge of your sawmill's capacity, then weird things start to happen. So sometimes your clamp or even your claw will flop down because you're right at the limit of the capacity the saw was built for, and sometimes you go under it too far as you're trying to clamp, or just things happen and the log will start rolling back this way. That's never a good thing. 90% of the time it's going to stop, or you're going to go, oh no, and you're going to grab hold of it with something. If it's a big log, you're not going to stop it. If it wants to go, it's going to go. So on big logs, the absolute worst thing you can do is lower these all the way to the ground. And then the log starts rolling, and as it's rolling over here, you panic and raise these arms, and they're about halfway out, and then the log rolls on them. And you think, well, what's wrong with that? You got the log caught. Well, you just caught the log, but now your center of gravity of your sawmill has shifted from over here to about here, right over this tire. And depending on how high you have that whole side of that sawmill is going to come off the ground. And this is about the time you really panic. And because now the loader arms, you met the log about horizontal, so now the entire log is being held out here. And the log is going to try to flip your sawmill over. And there was a recent forum topic on the forestry forum where an extremely experienced sawmiller had something somewhat similar happen to him, and the log hung on the loader arms halfway up, and sure enough, flipped the sawmill over like a beached whale. Don't do that. But to show you how much force these logs have on these loader arms just by their weight. Now, I've never flipped a sawmill. I have had one or two roll off. And that's another reason you like to have the log decks down there. But before I got the hang of this mill in the old learning stage, I had a couple of them that hit these log loader arms. And they weren't all the way out, but they were still high enough to catch the log. I mean, they were low enough where the log kind of dropped on them, which again is not something you want to do. And if you have any doubt how much energy is in a big log rolling onto loader arms that aren't all the way up or all the way down, and of course if it's all the way down, the log's going to hit the ground, hit your thing, and go that way, and then you're going to look like an idiot. If they're up, you're not going to look, you look like you know what you're doing. But if they're somewhere in the middle, these are steel, right? And they're beefy, but they're not beefy enough. This is powder coat or paint or something. These guys have flexed so much that the paint has stretched and chipped off right here. Can you see that bubble? These bubbles? Try to get in there. See these ripples? That's where the steel has flexed so much that it went down and came back up and it broke free of the paint. But that's how much flex this hunk of steel and that hunk of steel had where it actually cracks the paint. That's a lot of stress. So anyway, big logs will get you. However, if you use the right techniques, they're no big deal. And I don't know, let's saw this one up. Again, it's going to be a live edge slab, so I'm really not sure what I'm going to do until I start getting into it, and I can tell you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You know, I'm going to get wide till I get to about my 25 inches. I know this is close to 36. I don't like the plane wider than 25, 24 inches. So I'm going to start dropping down, and then I'm going to start getting single live edge boards out of it that are more conducive to me handling them. And I don't know, let's cut something. Let's try not to destroy the sawmill while we're doing it. I mean, it'd make good video, but it's not. Whoops. Thanks for visiting our sawmill. Click on the links above to see more of our videos.